Hey everyone, welcome to Homeschool, and we are with the second part of the chapter Microorganisms, Friends and Foe for class 8th Science, right? We have already completed part 1. Video link is there in the description. You can go and watch it out if you have not watched it. And we already completed the first chapter. Its link is also there in the description. You can go and watch that particular chapter also. Coming to this particular session, see, in our previous video we have started with useful things about microorganisms. So we started with the useful microorganisms. Under that we have already discussed about how microorganisms were helpful in converting milk into curd, and also how they were helpful in bakeries, like to get soft cakes, fluffy cakes and pastries, and how these microorganisms were helpful, why they have used them, all of them we have discussed. And now in this video we are going to discuss about remaining useful things about microorganisms. So the next aspect, the next useful thing that is mentioned in our textbook is commercial use of microorganisms. So what do you mean by commercial use of microorganisms? So MO in the sense microorganisms, do remember this. And you know, microorganisms are used in the production of a very important commercial compound called alcohol. Clear? So this alcohol is used for varieties of purposes. Alcohol can be used in medicine, alcohol can be used in chemical reaction, alcohol can be used in chemical laboratories for the discovery of many new compounds, right? So this important compound alcohol is prepared with the help of microorganisms. So let us try to understand that particular concept. Fine. See, you can do this activity even at your home. See, you take around 500 ml of water. 500 ml of water. Okay, just if you have a big container, just take half amount of water and add 1 spoon of sugar to it. 1 spoon of sugar to it. And also add some amount of yeast. Okay, so you should add yeast. We have discussed enough things about yeast in our previous video, right? Yeast is a type of fungi, right? Say you leave this solution for about 2 to 3 hours. You close and keep it in one particular place. Okay, or you can put yeast, sugar and water in one airtight container and keep it aside for 3 to 4 hours or just half a day. And after half a day or 4 to 5 hours, just open the cap and smell the liquid. Just do this experiment in your home and let me know what is the type of smell you got. And anyway, I'm going to reveal the type of smell now. It is the alcoholic smell you will get. Okay, it is the smell of alcohol. If you want to know the smell of alcohol, just go and smell the cough syrup. Right? So that is the smell of alcohol. Clear? So alcohol is formed here. So what actually happened here was the sugar, this sugar, right, has got converted into alcohol. And this conversion was done by a microorganism called yeast. And this particular reaction we will call with the name fermentation. We will call with the name fermentation. Very important, right? So by doing fermentation, large amount of alcohol can be produced commercially. Alcohol has lots of uses. That's why there is a need of production of large amount of alcohol. So what they do is they take the source of sugar. Where is sugar can be present? It can be present in fruits like grapes. It can be present in rice. You know, it can be present in various foodstuffs. Say for example, they can prepare alcohol from grapes. How do they prepare? They'll take a group of grapes, they'll put it in a container, they'll add water, they will add yeast, and they will keep the containers closed, airtight, for many days. And after many days, what would have happened in the course? The sugars, whatever is there in a grape, has got converted into alcohol with the help of yeast. Okay, so that's how alcohol is manufactured in large scale, in large amount, right? So this process we will call it as fermentation. What is important here to remember is the definition of fermentation. So how do you define fermentation? It is the process of converting sugar into alcohol by yeast, or with the help of the microorganisms called yeast. Okay, fine. So this is all about fermentation. And you know what? Every day we keep eating fermented foods. Like our idlis, dosas are fermented foods. How does your mother prepare these idlis and dosas? Can you able to recall, or just go and ask your mother? For example, for the preparation of idlis or dosa, she will take urd dal, right? And to that, she will mix some amount of rice. Nicely, they will grind. After grinding, they will mix with their hands very nicely, and they will keep it aside for 8 hours or 6 hours, minimum 6 hours. They'll close the lid and they'll keep it for 6 hours. So what would happen in that 6 hours of time? Actually, you have added little amount of rice, right? Say rice is a source of sugar. Okay, and in the atmosphere, naturally you will have some kind of bacteria or fungus. Okay, the environment has bacteria. You have mixed with a hand, right? Your hand also might have had little amount of bacteria. So this bacteria, that's how it enters into idli or dosa batter. Okay, so these bacteria will convert the sugar that is there in a batter into a certain kind of acids. Okay, and they leave out carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so because the carbon dioxide gas is emitting outside, the dosa batter would increase in its volume. Okay, would increase in its volume. And the dosa batter would become porous. You would find lot of holes in the dosa or idli batter, right? Why these holes are created? Because carbon dioxide gas is formed in a batter and that is coming outside. Okay, say this is what we call fermentation. And this fermentation improves the nutritional value of the food. Dosa without fermentation, if you eat, you don't get much nutrition. But fermented dosas, when you keep that batter for 8 hours, when it undergoes fermentation, then the nutritional value of dosas would increase. You get lots of vitamins, lots of amino acids and various things that is required from food. Okay, say every day we keep eating fermented foods, right? So fermentation is mainly due to microorganisms. Okay, so here fermentation means process of converting sugar into alcohol by yeast. Okay, so this is called fermentation. Commercially, this is very much important to manufacture or to prepare large amount of alcohol. Okay, so which scientists have invented this process of fermentation? It is Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur. Okay, so Louis Pasteur is the scientist who has invented this fermentation technique. So that's all about the second use that is mentioned in your textbook, that is commercial use of microorganisms. And now let me go for the third use, that is microorganisms in medicine. Have you heard about the name called antibiotics? Antibiotics. I think you must have heard this word, right? So when do you take this antibiotics? Antibiotics are nothing but a kind of medicine, right? When do you take this antibiotics? You will take these antibiotics when you get infected with the diseases like typhoid, cholera, right? So for these diseases, you know, the malaria, all these diseases, to make them in control, okay, we take the medicines called antibiotics, right? And you know what, antibiotics is a big boon to mankind, right? Say because of this antibiotics invented, you know what, our human life span has increased. Otherwise in the olden days, the people used to die if they get typhoid, people used to die if they get infected with malaria. But now typhoid is nothing, it's a small fever, right? We consider it as a small fever. We don't get afraid of typhoid nowadays because antibiotics are there, and these are the medicine which can cure the diseases like typhoid. We no need to worry if we get typhoid because antibiotics are there. But in the olden days, antibiotics were not there, so people used to die of these diseases. So I told you, antibiotics are a big boon to mankind. Okay, and what are these antibiotics? Let me write the definition of antibiotics first. They are medicine. They are nothing but a medicine which is used to kill or stop the growth of microorganisms. Okay, say the diseases like typhoid, cholera is caused due to microorganisms. To kill those harmful microorganisms inside our body, or to stop the growth of such harmful microorganisms, we will take a medicine, and those medicines which are used to kill or to stop the growth of microorganisms is called antibiotics. Okay, fine. And now the interesting thing is, how can we make these antibiotics? Say, how did the people manufactured or prepared these antibiotics? It's a very interesting fact to understand. Before that, let me give you some examples of antibiotics. Can you give one example? The famous word you must have heard, penicillin, right? So penicillin is the antibiotic given for typhoid patients. Okay, there are various types of penicillin also. Antibiotics are given in the form of injections or tablets. Okay, you have other examples also. Erythromycin. Okay, tetracycline. Okay, at least try to remember 3 examples: penicillin, erythromycin, tetracycline, ampicillin. Okay, so all these are different types of antibiotics. Okay, and now I'll tell you how we can manufacture antibiotics. You know what, guys? Alexander Fleming is the first person who has discovered the first antibiotic. Okay, so who is that first person? Alexander Fleming. And he has discovered the antibiotic penicillin. You would be wondering the process if you know how he has discovered this penicillin antibiotic. You know what? He was studying the disease-causing bacteria. He was studying about the disease-causing bacteria by growing it in some containers, which we call it as cultures. Okay, so usually we call something called culture in biology. Culture means what? It is some beaker, or it can be some petri dish where microorganisms can be grown by supplying the food that they need. Clear? Say for example, this is some petri dish, okay, or some watch glass type of plate. Here, whatever the food that is required for microorganism is filled in this particular petri dish. And microorganisms will grow the moment you provide a nice environment and nice food. Automatically microorganisms will grow. So he was growing harmful microorganisms in this particular petri dish. So let me imagine these. Let me show it with the help of this colored chalk. We say these are the microorganisms, harmful microorganisms that were growing in this. Okay, why was he growing? It's because to study about their nature, structure and everything. Okay, and surprisingly, along with these harmful microorganisms, they generated a type of mold. Okay, I'm doing it with yellow color chalk actually. Okay, so a type of mold that got generated. What do you mean by a mold? Mold is a type of fungus. It's also another type of microorganism, right? So along with the bacteria, these were the bacteria, harmful bacteria that were growing. Along with that, after few days, he observed the growth of mold also, that is fungi. And this mold has done one interesting thing. This mold has destroyed all these harmful bacteria. Okay, so it has killed all these harmful bacteria, and also it has stopped the growth of this harmful bacteria. That means one microorganism is responsible for killing another microorganism. Fungi or mold is also a type of microorganism. But what is this microorganism doing? It is actually killing the other microorganism. So that was the key for the invention of antibiotics. So antibiotics are nothing but the medicine which is prepared from other microorganisms only, like fungus and bacteria. They are the solutions of fungus and bacteria only. They are used to kill the harmful microorganism. They are used to kill the disease causing microorganisms. Okay, so how did we make microorganism? How did scientists make microorganism? It is from microorganisms like fungus and bacteria. Okay, so let me write that point here. Antibiotics are made. Antibiotics are prepared from microorganisms like fungus and bacteria. Okay, so there would be some useful fungus and bacteria, right? So this useful fungus and bacteria will help in destroying, will help in killing harmful disease causing microorganisms. So antibiotics are nothing but they are the substances that are generated from some useful fungus and bacteria itself. Clear? So that's all about antibiotics. So antibiotics are the medicine which is used to kill the harmful bacteria and fungus. They are made from fungus and bacteria only, but they are used to kill which type of microorganisms? They are used to kill fungus and bacteria. They are not effective against virus. So you are not supposed to take antibiotics for all types of diseases. Okay, so these antibiotics will work only if you are infected with some certain bacteria or fungus only. Okay, say the common cold, the cough, cold, when you are infected with viruses, usually you will get this cold and cough. And this cold and cough cannot be treated with the help of antibiotics because it will not work on viruses. Antibiotics will never work on viruses. They will work only for fungal type of microorganisms as well as work only for bacteria type of microorganisms. Okay, and you are not supposed to take this antibiotics on your own. You have to take this on doctor's prescription only, because there will be a course. You have to use it for 3 days, 5 days, like that. Okay, so according to a course, you have to use the antibiotics for a particular disease. Clear? So that's all about antibiotics. And now let us talk about another interesting thing called vaccines. Vaccine is a very commonly used term nowadays, right? See, we are aware of the vaccine for coronavirus, right? People are getting vaccinated for coronavirus so that you can prevent this viral diseases. And in case if you get infected with the virus, you would find less symptoms in your body and you will get recovered very soon, right? So that is the use of vaccine. And not only the coronavirus vaccine, right from the time you were born, we are fully loaded with vaccine only. See, we have a vaccine called BCG, there is a vaccine for tuberculosis, there is a vaccine for measles disease. If you want, you can go and ask your parents how many vaccines they have injected into your body, right? Say the moment you are born, right after 3 days, right after 1 month, right after 6 months, vaccines are given. And that's how we are safe from various diseases actually. Do you remember the polio disease? See, the legs and hands would become very, very weak in a polio attacked person. It will attack the children below 10 years. It was seen long back in India. Okay, many of the children were affected by this polio virus, and they have become half paralyzed. I mean, their nervous system will become very, very weak. That's why they can't able to walk properly, and their nerves are very, very weak. Clear? Say, and nowadays this polio disease is not there. It has been completely eradicated from our country. We are 100% free from polio disease. It's because of the vaccine polio drops. Okay, you must have heard about polio drops also. Say every year government would make programs in giving polio drops for the children below 5 years, isn't it? Say polio drops is nothing but it's a vaccine. It's a vaccine given to the children so that polio virus will not attack them, so that they will not get a disease called polio. Clear? Say vaccines will protect us from deadly diseases, deadly microorganisms, right? So now let us try to understand how they make vaccine and how these vaccines will help us in protecting from diseases. Clear? See guys, usually when we are infected with some deadly virus, bacteria, fungi, or whatever may be the microorganisms, our body will fight against them. Okay, so imagine this is a human body. Okay, I'm not good at drawing, just okay, this is a person, right? And there are microorganisms, deadly microorganisms which are coming and they are infecting this particular person. Okay, say infecting this particular person. Let me draw a big body here just to show the process. Okay, yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so when these guys say some deadly microorganism has come inside into his body, will our body keep quiet? Will our body accept those deadly microorganisms which are coming from outside? And you know what? These deadly microorganisms which are coming from outside, which are infecting us, which are leading to diseases are called pathogens. Okay, so what do you call them as? You will call them as pathogens. Okay, pathogens are harmful microorganisms which are coming into our body. You know what? The moment they come inside our body also will not keep quiet. It will produce, the fighting agents. It will produce the fighting agents. Small fighting agents are produced, very strong fighting agents. So they would fight against these guys who would kill these microorganisms. Okay, so that's what we mean by immunity. We also called immunity, right? What is that immunity? Immunity is nothing but it's our body's ability to create these fighting agents. Okay, so these fighting agents are called with the name antibodies. They are called with the name antibodies. Antibiotics are different, antibodies are different. So what do you mean by antibodies? Antibodies are the fighting agents created by a body to fight against the foreign substances. Okay, so I am giving the definition for antibodies. So take a definition for antibodies. They are fighting agents created in a body, in a human body, to fight against microorganisms, to fight against harmful microorganisms. Okay, right? So these antibodies would fight. Our body naturally has a fighting agents. So this ability of creating fighting agents is what we call immunity. Immunity cells, we say. So these immunity cells will kill the harmful microorganisms that have entered into our body. So how do you know that whether antibodies have generated or not? That's why, that is, the fever. You get fever when the first symptom that you get when you are infected with some microorganism is fever. Okay, so the moment you get fever means what? Your body is making these fighting agents. So your body is fighting against some microorganisms. So that is the indication to decide whether we got infected with microorganisms or not. Okay, so when these fighting agents are generated inside a body, we get a fever. Okay, so these are antibodies. So now you understood about the use of antibodies. Okay, and you know what? Vaccines are nothing but the solutions of dead or weak microorganisms which can help us in producing antibodies. Okay, so when you have lots of antibodies in your body, definitely you have lots of fighting agents and they will fight against harmful viruses and bacteria that are coming into your body. Okay, clear everybody? So what do you mean by vaccine here? Now I'm giving you the definition of vaccine. Vaccine is nothing but a chemical solution made from dead or inactive microorganisms injected into body to create antibodies which help in fighting against harmful microorganisms. Okay, so what is vaccine? It is a chemical solution made from dead or inactive microorganisms injected into a body. Why this solution is injected into a body? It is to create antibodies. Okay, it is to generate antibodies. So when you have antibodies, they can fight against harmful microorganisms. Okay, say for example, we got vaccinated with corona virus means what? Some dead inactive microorganisms were given into our body so that our body has generated antibodies against coronavirus. So if coronavirus comes into our body, these antibodies would fight. Naturally, there are some antibodies. Okay, but those antibodies may not fight against the strong microorganism. So antibodies, some strong microorganism which can fight coronavirus, those antibodies were injected into our body, right? So such a solution is called as vaccines. So vaccines are made from dead inactive microorganism only. Okay, say, and that's how antibodies are formed. And our body also remembers how we have fought the disease with the help of these antibodies. Okay, so you must have heard this. Once in your lifetime, if you get chicken pox, again you will not infected with chicken pox virus, right? Say somewhere in a childhood, when you are 5 years or 6 years age, when you get chicken pox or smallpox, again in your whole life you will never get chicken pox only. It's because why? Because during the first time when you get affected with chickenpox, there would be some antibodies generated in your body. Okay, they would stay forever in your body. They would stay forever in your body. So again, when chickenpox virus enters into your body, these antibodies that were created, no, they would fight now. They would fight against those chickenpox or smallpox virus. Okay, say our body also has memory power. I mean, this immunity system also has a memory. It will remember how it had fought against the diseases earlier. Okay, again when you infect with the same virus or bacteria, you know, the same type of antibodies are produced, and in a similar way they would fight back. Okay, when you get infected for the second time. So you know, generating such antibodies, existing such antibodies in a human body is very important, right? So these antibodies would fight against the diseases. So those solutions, we will call it as vaccines. Okay, because of these vaccines, you know, nowadays we don't have people with tuberculosis. We do have, but you know, the people who got vaccinated will not get tuberculosis. The people who got vaccinated will not get measles and mumps. The people who got vaccinated will not get polio virus. It's all because, you know, vaccines, this you know, the dead microorganisms we have purposefully introduced into our body so that antibodies can get created. Those antibodies would stay in our body forever. So again, when a virus is actually infecting our body, these antibodies would fight against those viruses and bacteria. Okay, so that is the use of vaccines. Right? So this is all about the useful microorganisms in the field of medicine. And now we will study about the microorganisms in soil. See guys, there are many useful microorganisms in a soil. These microorganisms will help in improving the fertility of a soil, will help in improving the quality of a soil. Okay, so for example, you have a type of microorganism called cyanobacteria. It's a kind of bacteria, cyanobacteria, which is also called with the name blue-green algae. Blue-green algae. Okay, so this blue-green algae will act as nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, this is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. That means, what do you mean by nitrogen fixing? It will convert atmospheric nitrogen. You know, in our atmosphere, nitrogen is present as N2 molecule. In our atmosphere, nitrogen is present as a gas, as N2 gas. Okay, and plants and animals need nitrogen not in this N2 form. They need nitrogen in the form of this particular compound, KNO3, NaNO3. Okay, so here also N means nitrogen. Here also nitrogen is there. Nitrogen in different form it is there. But in our atmosphere, nitrogen is there as N2. Our plants and animals need nitrogen in this way. Nitrogen must be present as this particular compound. Only then plants and animals can take up nitrogen from soil. Okay, we don't use nitrogen in this form. Clear? And who will convert nitrogen from this form to this form? It is this nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so this nitrogen fixing bacteria will absorb nitrogen from atmosphere and it will convert into usable nitrogen compounds. Okay, say nitrogen is much necessary for the growth of plants. Plants take nitrogen from soil, but plants doesn't want nitrogen in the form of N2. Plants want nitrogen in the form of these compounds. Okay, so who is converting nitrogen from N2 to KNO3 and NaNO3? It is this nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so soil is rich with this nitrogen fixing bacteria which can improve the fertility of a soil. Okay, so that's all about the microorganisms in soil, right? And now we will discuss about the cleaning that is done in the environment by microorganism. See, how does our environment can become clean with the help of the microorganism? Imagine plants and animals die, or you have lots of plant waste and animal waste, right? And you know what, when something dies and when some animal or plant waste falls on a ground, after 1 day or 2 days you will get a smell. Okay, but gradually that smell will vanish. It means that the waste from animals and plants is getting converted into something else. It's getting converted into something else. So it is the bacteria, it is the decomposing bacteria that is there in a soil that is converting this plant and animal waste into simple compounds. Okay, so these simple compounds again can be used as a manure for the growth of plants. Say for example, you can do this at your home. You can try doing this. See, you take 2 buckets or 2 plastic containers. In one container, you dump all your plant and animal waste. Plant and animal waste. So what do you mean by plant and animal waste? You know, you will eat the fruits. The peels would be there. Where do you put the peels? You will put it in a dustbin, right? That's what we mean by plant waste. The fruit waste, the vegetable waste, or the leftover food, whatever you have, you will throw it, right? And the spoiled food, whatever it is, you put it in one container. Okay, you collect 10 days of plant and animal waste and you put it in one container, and 10 days of dry waste in the sense all the plastic, okay, plastic waste, whatever is there, glass waste, plastic waste, ceramic waste, everything, you put it in another container. This is called as dry waste and this is called as wet waste. Okay, and you know what, after about a month, if you open both containers, you know, this particular waste would have converted into pieces and powder. It just more or less looks like a mud only. Okay, after about a month or 2 months or 6 months, whatever, right? If you see this container, everything would have converted into a soil. It just looks like a soil. But here, the plastic waste that you have dumped, when you open and see, they would remain as it is. They would remain as it is. Okay. And again to this waste, add a little bit of soil and keep it. Okay. So if you can add little bit of soil, then, you know, the decomposition would be much faster. So how this plant and animal waste has converted into soil again? How this has converted into small powder? It's because of the bacteria that has generated. It's because the bacteria that is present in a soil that you have added to this. Okay, so what is that bacteria doing? This bacteria, okay, so the bacteria that is present in a soil break complex organic matter into simple substances. Okay, so this process we will call it as decomposition. This is what we mean by decomposition. Okay, see, plant and animals are also made up of chemical substances only. Those chemical substances we will call it as complex organic matter. So, you know, the chemical substances would be so long. Imagine this much long chemical substance is there. You know, this bacteria, what will it do? It will break down this long chemical into smaller and smaller pieces. And now each piece is like very useful for the soil. It can improve the fertility of a soil. Okay, say you had along chemicals in the plant and animal waste. There is a bacteria in our soil that has broken down this long chemical into smaller and smaller pieces. Okay, and these small pieces, they get added to a soil, and they have lots of uses. Okay, that will increase the fertility of a soil, and that is very much necessary for the growth of plants. So that's how the dead animals or the dead plants or any plant and animal waste will undergo a process called decomposition with the help of bacteria that is present in a soil. And this is how our environment is remaining clean. Imagine if this decomposition doesn't happen in our environment. What would happen? You would die with smell. Yes or no? See, all the plants and animals, day by day, they would die, and new things get formed. And all the dead ones, if they don't undergo decomposition, they would remain as it is. So the whole earth is full of dead bodies with lots of smell. And we would die with smell only. Right? So decomposition is the major process that's happening in soil, which is helping to keep our environment clean and safe. Right? So that's how the cleansing of environment takes place by microorganisms. So these are various useful aspects of microorganisms. So microorganisms are used in making curd, bread or bakery items and the tasty dosas, idlis, etc. And microorganisms are used for making alcohol. Microorganism is used in the field of medicine, both as antibiotics as well as vaccines. Microorganisms are used for improving the nature of soil, okay, by nitrogen fixing. And finally, microorganisms help in cleaning the environment. By which process? By decomposition. Okay, so these are the useful aspects you have to remember. And now in the next video, let me discuss about the harmful microorganisms. Say which microorganisms causes which diseases in human beings, animals as well as plants. All of them we will try to discuss. Thank you so much and meet you up in the next class.